Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition is Mega Man Xtreme 2, brought to us by Capcom. Like the original Xtreme, Xtreme 2 features Mavericks from X1, X2, and even X3, but uses an original story with new villains to tie everything together. Mega Man Xtreme 2 features multiple different play modes, but in this run of the game, we're only going to be playing the third play mode that you end up unlocking after completing normal gameplays as both Mega Man and Zero. When we start up the game, we'll get our opening storyline before we make it to the main menu. When you normally start up the game, when you pick normal play, you'll be able to either select Mega Man or Zero, and each one faces off against 4 different Mavericks. After completing both the X mission and the Zero mission, you unlock the Extreme mode, which is what we're going to be completing in this run. In Extreme mode, you can switch between Mega Man and Zero at any time. Whichever one of the characters ends up defeating the Maverick at the end ends up absorbing their abilities. Both of the characters do not end up getting those abilities. You can also only grab the armor upgrades for each of the characters in their specific stages. After selecting Extreme mode, we get our opening story before we jump into the first level. Like most of the Mega Man X games, you start off with an opening intro level. We take control of Mega Man at the start of the level, and we'll start working our way through. Controls are very similar to most of the other Mega Man X games, and of course, if you played Mega Man Xtreme, you know exactly pretty much how Mega Man is going to control. After the brief scene with Zero, we drop on down to the bottom portion here and continue along the level. You're of course able to charge up your X-Buster in order to do some pretty powerful attacks, and we'll get a few upgrades to that as the game goes on. One of the things added to Xtreme 2 is a shop that you can actually buy upgrades and equip them at any time by going to the pause menu, and we'll be doing a little bit of that throughout the game, though I won't be buying everything. Up here, you're going to have to take out the kind of rotating barrier enemy. Thankfully, he drops a little bit of health before we enter inside of the first boss chamber. This giant machine will move back and forth every so often, will open up and drop a little enemy out of his mouth. You can jump up at any point in order to kind of hit his jaw as it's opening up. Now, you have plenty of time to get a full charged up shot. Thankfully, it doesn't take very long to charge up the X-Buster, so you can jump right up by going to the opposite side of the screen, jump, blast, and then repeat by going to the opposite side of the screen and doing the same. Sometimes you may want to linger on one side because you'll have just enough time to do another charge and blast before he ends up getting too close to you. After defeating the boss, we have a few cutscenes before we end up getting to the Maverick selection screen to tackle our first main level. When you finally make it to the Maverick selection screen, you'll have 8 Mavericks here. The top 4 are the ones that Mega Man will face in his normal gameplay, and Zero's are on the bottom. Now the one we're going to start off with, though, is one that Zero would normally face, and that is Wire Sponge, who you may remember from Mega Man X2. Now one thing I will say is there is one boss in the game we will not be tackling. Normally, when you make it to the end of the game in the Reploid Research Laboratory, Zero has a certain boss that he faces and X has one that he faces. But during this playthrough, because I'm playing as both X and Zero, I only end up facing with one of them, and that will end up being the one for X, which is Birkana. I won't be actually facing Gareth in this run of the game. A lot of the Mavericks levels designs are very similar to the way they were set up in their original X game. When you make it over here past like the first checkpoint of the level, head down here and make sure that you're Zero when you approach the chamber to the right and enter inside the Dr. Light capsule. You must be the correct character in order to grab the upgrade. So in all of Zero's levels, you have to be Zero, and in the 4 Mega Man levels, you have to be Mega Man. So you can't grab Zeros with Mega Man and vice versa. After grabbing the ability though, we will switch back to Mega Man. I'm just one of those ones who's always preferred to play as Mega Man over Zero, though whichever character you prefer to play as, they each, of course, have their own pluses and minuses. After leaving the chamber, we'll have to now ride the elevator back up. You may have noticed that checkpoint a few moments ago. The game has a bunch of them set up, and as far as I know, that's a good way for the game to kind of set up so they can kind of load the next part, because even though it is a handheld title, it does a great job of representing the levels and has quite lengthy stages overall. The checkpoints also work, though, as well checkpoints, so if you end up dying during the level, you'll start back at the one you most recently passed. Overall, most of the part here, you can see that we're going to be doing most of our dashes. This is the hardest part, where you'll have to dash to the kind of the single pillars that are moving as they are jet propelled back and forth. Of course, hitting spikes is an instant death, as you probably have gotten used to in the Mega Man series. So when riding this elevator up, we're not going to be touching the walls, and we're not going to be hitting any of the other spikes as we make our way up to the top and enter inside the first of the Maverick boss chambers. Wire Sponge is an overall relatively interesting Maverick. He has the spinning whip. He'll attach himself to the ceiling using his long arm, slowly pulling himself towards the ceiling and launching these little sprouts out at you, which will land on you to do damage, or if they hit the ground, will form a little plant in the ground, and you'll have to either destroy it with the X-Buster or just try to do your best to avoid it. You'll be able to get in a couple of shots though when he's pulling himself up, doing some small movements towards them, because he's throwing those things too directly to your body where it was as he launches them. He'll also throw out his arm in order to attach itself to the walls if he's able to hit it, or it'll just stand out far across the stage. Thankfully, the little bit of buds don't really do a whole lot of damage, but things get really interesting when you make it to the end of the battle, when he goes full-blown angry mode and starts summoning lightning from the ceiling. This lightning damages you a ton. Doing Wire Sponge as your first Maverick can be difficult for this part alone. Though, I want to make sure that I defeat him using Zero, so at the end here I'm going to switch over to Zero. Thankfully, both characters have a separate health bar, and I can deliver the final hit to Wire Sponge. The reason why you want to make sure we're going to defeat certain Mavericks with certain characters is because the abilities you get from them are needed in order to break down walls and traverse different areas, and you won't be able to do that if the other character ends up getting the ability. So the only way in order to get all the items would mean that we would have to restart the entire game. The second of the Mavericks we're going to battle is another one of the ones for Zero, and it is Tunnel Rhino. Now we're going to start off the stage using Zero. Since we're already in control of him, we can use our air dash and use his blade in order to kind of take out the giant rocks, though it does take quite a few swipes in order to destroy these giant things. Get over the little tunneling creature and then start working your way down. Don't go too fast though, you may accidentally end up falling into that final pit at the very bottom. Avoid the rocks as they're going to be coming down into the pits and landing on the platforms that you're going to be dashing towards. You can try to do your best to kind of dash over them all together. Now this is where things are a little tricky, as you don't have a lot of space to kind of move around. You'll have to kind of like hang on the wall on the far left here and force the boulders to kind of go past you. Now of course you can destroy them, and actually it's a little bit easier to do so with X than it is with Zero. At the very top, we're going to jump into the first of the movable mechs in the game that we're going to be getting inside of. The mech has its own health bar, though it doesn't last forever, but you won't be taking damage to your normal health bar. In the upper right corner, use the jet propulsion and then propel yourself out of the mech. In order to get into the upper right corner, switch over to whichever character you want to give extra health to. Since I'm going to use Mega Man a lot more, I'm going to give Mega Man more of the health boost. But it's your choice for which character you want to do that to. Now, in the next portion, when we get down here, we're going to work our way over to the left. Thankfully, we can jump on spikes. And this is where we meet Wire Sponge's ability. Go ahead and switch to the lightning move, and you'll use it. And then it'll cause the wall to the left, as long as one of the lightning bolts hits it, of course, to be destroyed. And you can find the second of the 0 Dr. Light chambers. Instead of just getting an upgraded blade for 0, you get a move that you can use once per level, and we're going to be using it a lot on the bosses of the game because it does a huge amount of damage if you're able to hit it against them, so you'll be seeing it a few times throughout the course of the run. Now from this point on though, we are going to switch back over to Mega Man for the remainder of the stage until we make it to the boss, and I will end up killing the boss using 0 like I did with Wire Sponge. Use the robot for this whole portion here, taking out the robots along the way. Thankfully, you're not going to be taking any damage. And then when you need to jump out of the mech, start moving along with Mega Man, blasting across a couple of enemies. It won't be too much that you'll have to deal with. Now, when you make it a little bit farther to this section here, you're going to have to deal with fire that shoots up. Now, surprisingly, the fire is not instant death, which is what you would expect it to be. So just hang up on the walls and platforms to wait for the fire to dissipate. Drop down, we're going to take out this guy here, and then charge on through and continue along our way. Just keep doing this at each one of the passes. You'll clearly know when you're going to have to kind of like move yourself up if you're timing it exactly right. And eventually making into this hallway here. Now, you have to be very fast, dash across, and be able to get up to the top, and then you can make it to the boss door out in the top right corner. Now, at the beginning of this fight against Tunnel Rhino, I'm going to go ahead and switch to 0 and use his 0 final move, and there it is. That little quick move does a ton of damage, but I also took a bunch of damage, so I had to be very cautious here. So, instead of battling him with 0, I will switch back to X for now. Tunnel Rhino does a lot of damage when he charges across the room and runs into you, so you want to really fast jump out of the way, jump to the walls, and then jump over him, land, deliver a hit, and then immediately dash away every time he does this. As the battle rages on, he will get more mad and start dashing and throwing rocks up into the air. He'll also throw drills into the ground, which will then come out of both the top and bottom of the screen, which can be hard to dodge. When you get him down low health, though, I'm going to switch back over to 0, deliver one last hit to him, and move on to the next Maverick. As you've seen, there's quite a lot of long, kind of winded dialogue sequences throughout the game to kind of continue the story, but thankfully they do kind of break up a little bit. We don't have as many for a little while now. We can get through a couple of stages in a row without seeing another cutscene. Now, next up is Overdrive Ostrich, and we start off this level on the vehicle. Now, I'm starting off as 0 because that's who I was using at the end of the last stage, and make it over a few jumps. It's a relatively easy section. The section a little bit later on is a bit tougher to deal with. Climb down the ladder and then start dashing through. You'll have these giant tornadoes that end up popping out of these machines. Now, you can kind of trick them by running into an enemy, and while you're still invincible from the enemy's hit, you can then run through the giant tornado, though you have to time it right. So sometimes you may want to just wait, because the tornadoes do a lot of damage. You're not going to want to actually run into them, especially with 0, who we haven't been picking up the health upgrades with. Of course, that's completely up to you who you want to grab those health upgrades with. Technically, you should have 4 for X and 4 for 0. Now right here, we're going to do a big dash across to the far left, grab a hold of this ladder, and climb up for the next one of 0's armor pieces. After getting ourselves the head crush ability, drop down the ladder all the way to the very bottom, hit the checkpoint, and we're going to grab this motor vehicle once again. Now, while we're on this, you're going to have to do a few tricky spots here. There's some platforming, and you're going to have to attack a few enemies while going on this. You can move a little bit, but you want to stay kind of here. You want to make sure you drop off of this platform here, as that is where the health upgrade is for the stage. With this one, I'm going to be giving the 0, just mostly because I'm already him, and I don't need all the health on Mega Man. At the end of that section, though, it is time for the next Maverick boss. So here we go with Overdrive Ostrich. They do a good job of replicating the fight here with him in shadow kind of silhouette form in the background before jumping to the foreground. We're going to start off immediately by doing 0's move like we have before, and now I'm going to switch over to Mega Man. Though you have to make sure that you're not currently flashing from invincibility when you try to switch, or else you won't be able to switch between the two characters. That's the key. Also, I don't think you can do stuff like change in mid-air if you're jumping or like. When Overdrive Ostrich is in the background, when he runs across, he'll meet up with you, and then he's going to jump into the air, and he's going to land wherever you are. So you want to time it so that you can quickly get away from where he's going to land and deliver a hit. He'll then start running or jumping towards the left or right side of the screen, and then go off screen, go back to the background, and repeat the process. Now, Overdrive Ostrich is normally a 0 boss, but his move is not needed for any of the other items we're going to be grabbing, so you can defeat him with either Mega Man or 0. So 0 would be the traditional way, or you can defeat him with Mega Man and get a different ability that Mega Man wouldn't normally get in his normal playthrough, but it's similar to the one he would get in Mega Man X2, which of course is where Overdrive Ostrich is from. Now next up, we're going to go to the 4th of 0's Mavericks, and that is Blast Hornet from Mega Man X3. At the beginning of the level, I'm going to switch over to 0. He's going to be moving a little bit quicker. His air dashes work well. There's a lot of platforming at the beginning of this stage, and I just find doing the air dash a little bit easier to do this. So we're going to switch to him and work our way up. You have this large series of multiple floating platforms. We're going to work our way to the upper left, grab a ladder, and then work our way up to the top. Now, there's a lot of flying creatures during this part. I'm just doing my best to hit as many as I can. I take a lot of damage during this part. You are probably going to want to take it a little bit slower. Now, when you make it to that platform, you're going to drop on down and grab the health upgrade. Pick whoever you want to grab it with, but grab it, then work your way back to the left, climb the ladder again, and then go over. In case you're wondering, it's the platform I'm on right now is the one you dropped off of a second ago. So you have the 2 spinning turrets, and then the platform that has no turret on is the one you drop off of to the left side to get to the health boost. Now, these platforms you may be familiar with, of course, if you play the other X games. Whatever way the arrow is pointing is the way they end up moving, and you can actually change some of them by jumping on them multiple times in order to force them to go the way you want. It's actually really hard to kind of get these bugs to line up the way you want them to. You don't want to jump when on the platform already. You're probably just going to end up running into them. So I had to be very cautious here. Try to take out a few of these turrets instead of kind of going over all of them. Here, I'm going to dash right here. I'm going to use lightning to help me out to try to take out the turrets. Thankfully, one of them drops a little bit of health, so I can now kind of move my way a little bit quicker through this area. The turrets are usually relatively good about sometimes dropping health when I absolutely need it at this segment. Now, the reason why we needed to get the tunnel move from Tunnel Rhino is to use that by jumping and hitting the button and down, and we use it to destroy this wall and find the fourth and final of Zero's armor pieces. That's why you had to get Tunnel Rhino's move with Zero. Now, after getting the move, back to the left, you have to destroy the 3 turrets located here, at least 2 of them, because when you do so, the ground will break. That's why I did not destroy them when first going to the right, and that's why you also need health when traveling, because you want to make sure that you don't destroy them and you have enough health to survive a hit or 2. Now, here's a little bit of a mini-boss. We're going to jump up and attack these wall turrets that light up. You can only attack them when they're lit up. The whole time they're firing bullets at you, and a little nuisance flying bugs are going around as well. Once you're able to attack all 4 of the turrets, you can then escape using the door in the bottom right and go to the next part of the level. There's a lot of these flying bugs. Take your time, especially in this little hallway, because it's a little bit harder to dodge them, but thankfully it's the end of the area, and we're now at the next Maverick. Also, by defeating a few of them, we got a little bit of extra health before entering Blast Hornet's boss fight. Now, Blast Hornet, we're going to start off by jumping up in the air, and then using Zero's final move again to immediately cause a lot of damage. And I'm going to stay as Zero a little bit because it's easy to hit him. Blast Hornet dashes towards the ground after bringing out his stinger in order to try to run into you. If he runs into you, he does a lot of damage, so you have to be careful of that. He also will summon little flying annoying bugs as well for you to deal with. But using Zero, you can usually get in a lot of hits. It's one of the fights that Zero definitely benefits from. And once he's defeated, we move on to the next Maverick. We are halfway through the Mavericks of the game. Next up is the first one that we're going to be battling from the X's set, and that is Volt Catfish. The beginning of the stage is relatively straightforward, watching out for some bats and some electrical beams that are moving along the piping on the bottom. There are a couple of pits that you will have to avoid before finally heading down to the second portion. Now, over to the right here, you're going to see some running water, and we're going to have to climb up the wall to the right and start working our way up. A little bit up, you will start to see some of these blades that will start moving down along with some enemies crawling on the walls. Do your best to take them out. I usually use Zero during this portion because the blade seems to hit them a little bit easier than using X's Buster to do the job. Up here, you can grab the health over to the right if you need it, but when you make it to the top here, you're going to have to climb the left wall using X in order to get to the first of X's armor chambers. This first one we end up getting is the leg upgrade, which will allow us to now do the air dash just like Zero, so we should have no problems being able to traverse the levels using him. Now, a little bit in, though, you're going to have water that will start rushing towards you. Now, this initial water right here, I don't think instantly kills you, but the water later on does instantly kill you, so you have to be very cautious. Either way, just avoid the water as you make your way over to the right, and you'll enter into the next chamber. Now, as soon as you make it into here, destroy this enemy and climb up this wall. If you end up getting hit by the enemy, you can't quite take him out. You may have to take a little bit of damage by hanging on this wall. It gets annoying, but it's better than an instant death. Thankfully, the enemy right next to him ends up dropping a tiny bit of health for me to replenish it a bit. Then in the next room, just move on forward and through the next gate. Now, this is a little bit challenging as you're going to have to take out the enemies left and right, or take some damage. Wait for the water to dissipate, then quickly drop down, run over to the left, and grab the heart, and then immediately run out of the area. And if you do it just right, you should be able to make it out before the wave comes and kills you. That is probably the toughest of the health boosts in order to grab in the game. The rest of them are relatively easy to get a hold of. Thankfully, though, that is the end of the stage as we now enter through a couple of the gates here in order to enter the Maverick chamber of Vault Catfish. Now, Vault Catfish is a little bit tricky to beat. We're going to switch off to Zero right away, and just like we've been doing, use Zero's final move to just give us a great starting point. Sometimes it can be difficult when you're trying to pause real quickly. I find the pause to be a little bit sensitive in the game. I end up double pressing it sometimes. Trying to stay away from Vault Catfish and deliver full charged up shots to him as best as possible. This is a tough fight. I have very low health going into the fight, so I have to be very cautious. Vault Catfish has a lot of projectiles, as you can see, that home in on you and try to hit you. I can kind of drop between sets of them in order to deliver hits to Vault Catfish, and this is the best way to keep delivering shots to him, stay away from him in order to drain his health and take him out. You want to make sure that we're going to take him out with X. Next up is one of the original Mavericks from Mega Man X1, Flame Mammoth. We're going to start off by switching off to Zero, as it's going to be just a little bit easier to kind of like traverse some of the areas and take out some of the enemies using Zero's blade during this segment, though normally this is one of the levels that X has to tackle in his normal gameplay. Grab the extra little bit of health to the far right if you want to, and then when you make it over here, jump onto this platform and then dash forward to the left and use Zero's upgrades that we've gotten in order to kind of bust your way through all these bricks and work your way up to the top. And then when you make it to the top, you're going to have to switch off to Mega Man, as this is a Mega Man portal. Now, if you walk to the far right just a little bit, don't go off the platform altogether, you should be able to trigger Dr. Light to appear so that you can then jump inside of the portal. We now have the upgraded arm cannon, which when you fully charge it up, gives you a spread shot that you can use in order to take out enemies. Now right here, we're going to boost up into the air using the boost that we've already gotten, break apart this wall up on the top portion, and grab the extra energy holder here in the upper left corner. Just like with the original Mega Man X games, you can fill them up in order to get yourself some extra boost of health at any point. Any health that you grab when already at full health goes towards one of those containers until they're full. You also noticed at the bottom right, I grabbed the health upgrade for this stage. Thankfully, the lava in this level is not an instant kill like you would pretty much expect it to be. In the next part of the level, you're going to have pipes that are dripping lava. You need to avoid these, as well as we're going to be dodging around a couple of the enemies with those large mace balls they end up throwing out. Now you can take two paths here at the top and the bottom, but we're going to take the top path as this is the quickest way through this area, entering the door on the far right in order to enter into Flame Mammoth stage. Now before I even enter the boss chamber, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Zero you can pretty much guess what we're going to do at the beginning of this fight to kind of help us out. As long as you make a little bit of contact with him, you'll be able to dish out that big chunk of damage at the beginning. Now, Flame Mammoth does a lot of damage if you run into him, and when he does his stomp move, causing the ground to shake, and you run into him, you can see that how much health he ends up taking. Now, we're going to use Zero, get up close, and beat the crap out of him, but we don't want to beat him with Zero. We want to beat him with X, so when he gets down to one hit left, we're going to fire from this far left side in order to deliver those final hits. Due to low health, I know I went through that battle really fast. Flame Mammoth will also shoot out projectiles, as you saw with the little flames coming towards me that kind of land on the conveyor belt. And the whole gimmick of the conveyor belt in general is what's going to be to your detriment, trying to stay away from the massive body of Flame Mammoth during the course of the fight. Now, next up is one of my favorite Mavericks from Mega Man X3, and that is Neon Tiger. There was just something so really cool about him the first time I played X3 on the Super Nintendo. Starting off the level, you're going to have the wood-chopping, lumberjack-esque robots, who we actually first saw in Chill Penguin's level in Mega Man X1. There's a lot of enemies here. We're dashing through using Mega Man, charging up our blast. Now, soon off, we're going to be buying some of those upgrades that will help us out. Honestly, the upgrades that you end up buying end up being better than the actual upgrade of the arm cannon or X-Buster that we ended up getting from the Dr. Light Chamber. Using the giant mech robot, busting through a whole bunch of these walls, we have to do a charge up into the upper right here, bust through this wall in order to grab the health upgrade for the stage. Now, once we have this, continue to the next part. A lot of the pieces of the tree will fall apart as soon as you land on them, so you have to be cautious. When you make it to these moving platforms, take your time, destroy the other machinery on the platform before attempting to jump to it. At the end, there's two platforms connected to one another, both of which will fall when you land on them. Don't do what I do here and kind of dash through on top of all of the flame cannon turrets. Don't do that. Instead, just take your time and take them out. Now, using Flame Mammoth's ability, we have to bust through this wooden block on the lower right of this platform. That's why you had to beat Flame Mammoth using Mega Man X. And then, once you've destroyed it, you can use the next Dr. Light Chamber. Here we end up getting the Head Crush ability, which honestly we're really not going to be using at any point during the course of the levels, but we would have needed it in Flame Mammoth stage had we not used Zero, since he already had that ability. So in a normal playthrough using Mega Man, you wouldn't have been able to do Flame Mammoth's level, or at least not get all the items in Flame Mammoth's level right away, without first getting the head upgrade from Neon Tiger. The next portion of the stage, we're once again in a mech. Usually when I'm in a mech, I just kind of avoid all the enemies. Don't really need to take them out since I have plenty of health here. You can use the jet here to kind of jump up here. Sometimes you can get up here, other times you just jump out, grab the extra little bit of health, and then dash across the last spike pit, making sure you don't clip them at all, and then enter the boss chamber for the battle against Neon Tiger. Now, like normal, switch off immediately off to Zero, and now we're going to dash across, jump into the air, catch him mid-air with Zero's final move here. Like I said, as long as you make a little bit of contact, the move counts. And then we're going to switch back off to X. Neon Tiger dashes towards the ground, and then will spring up onto the left or right wall, but he's going to be coming towards you. Now we're going to use a weakness here, or at least a move that definitely helps out, and that's Volt Catfish's lightning move here. As you can see, it does a decent amount to Neon Tiger. We can hit him when he's against the wall, and we're going to defeat Neon Tiger using X here. So just keep attacking him. He's on that left wall, throwing out some projectiles at you, but you can throw projectiles right back at him using Volt Catfish move, and he will go down, and we move on to the 8th and final Maverick. Before jumping into that final Maverick, though, we're going to go to the part shop. As you can see, we have a decent amount of money that we have built up over time, and we're going to grab ourselves a few of the upgrades here. I'm not going to buy all the upgrades. I bought like that big blaster there. I'm going to buy these pluses up here. And then as well for Zero, I'll buy the ultimate saber upgrade, which will help out. Next up though, we're going to be going into Launch Octopus's stage. When the level begins though, I'm going to go to the bottom menu and go to the part screen and equip the 3 things I just bought for X. This is going to change up how I attack. From now on, instead of having to charge using the X-Buster, I instantly fire out that charge blast, and this thing makes things a lot easier. It's one of the reasons why I kind of didn't buy it as soon as I could. At least give me a little bit of a challenge, because this thing will destroy enemies. So as soon as you're able to get these upgrades, X becomes a killing machine, at least as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not an expert when it comes to the Buster parts store in general. You guys can let me know which parts you prefer to use during the course of the game. But these are the ones that I usually end up picking up, as it's the ones I always end up having enough of the kind of bolts or money or whatever you want to call it to buy. Now right here we have to wait for this tornado to appear and then ride up it and get on this ship. Once we're on the ship, keep firing at the top of it to destroy it. Once you destroy it, it'll disappear, but it causes a giant hole at the very bottom of the ocean here. Inside here, you're going to have that moving creature. You battled him in the original version of the stage. You have to ride on him and blast him in the head as he's turning all around. Now, of course, under the water, you have a little bit of a slower jump, a little bit less gravity to deal with. You can blast him in the head or tail, but once he is defeated and slowly falls apart, you can then go to the door in the lower right corner. And here is the final armor piece for X. We now have the complete set of armor for both Zero and for X. We also get the ability to use the Giga Crush move by taking a certain amount of damage with X now with that certain body armor. Now for the next portion of the stage, we're going to get up here and we're going to go ahead and turn back on our equipment. Once you grab that armor though, you end up losing what you have equipped. So we're going to just go ahead and equip back the +2 and the ultimate buster shot here, and then take out the giant ship right below. It's really easy to do so now with these upgrades. As you continue on, we're going to ignore the ladder that we just passed on by, keep heading over to the right. Here you're going to have to battle another one of these guys, who's just as easy as we dealt with before, in fact a little bit easier, because you don't have to worry about the spikes on the ground. You can kind of stand on this hill and just keep firing at him a whole bunch of times. Eventually though, he will be destroyed and we can move on to the next portion. Right after defeating him though, we enter the boss chamber for Launch Octopus. Go ahead and switch off to Zero like we normally do and get ready to unleash the final move like always to start this fight off. Of course, if you want things to be more challenging for you, of course don't use this move, but it's kind of a waste. Like, you get this awesome move and not to use it. But if you want that kind of more challenging thing, especially during this mode in particular, go ahead and just don't use it. Now, we're not going to have to use any of the weaknesses here at all through the Mavericks, because now we have the supercharged up move using the stuff we bought, and Launch Octopus, even with him launching out the little fish, and the missiles directly at us, as well as him jumping towards us, he's going to go down in no time. In fact, I could have defeated him a lot faster. I want him to at least get a few attacks off, so you can kind of see what he's able to do to you. But once he's down, we move on to the final stretch of the game. After the cutscene, you can then see on the far right we have a new level selectable. Before going in though, we will go ahead and buy the upgraded Zero part as well, and enter inside the first of the Sigma stages, or Reploid Laboratory, whatever you want to call these levels. Start off on some pretty tricky platforming here, as you can see the moving, rotating platforms around their tracks. After getting past them, you're going to have a couple of ladders to climb along with these mace guys. Thankfully, we still have our equipped ability, but we have so much health now from all the upgrades we got with X, combined with our armor. We honestly really don't have to fight too much. We can kind of run through a large portion of enemies and not really have to worry about the damage that we end up taking. Be careful with the bats though, because if you decide to dash using the armor, a bat hits you in midair, you will end up falling straight down into the pit, so you still have to be a little bit cautious there. Same goes with spikes, as anything that's an instant death is still going to be a major threat. Now you can pick which path you want to go up here, but I usually choose the one on the left here, work my way up the walls, bouncing up and then to the next ladder. In the next room, if you hit any of the sensors, you end up getting those things to kind of shoot at you. You have a couple of flame turrets as well as a spike floor to deal with as well. Just like I've been doing kind of through this level, not really caring, just kind of running through. I have plenty of health, and thankfully the boss usually doesn't give me any kind of trouble. Go ahead and switch to Zero though, right before we end up entering into the boss fight. But before we do so, we will equip Zero's 2 moves that we ended up picking up in the part shop. Also, equip the Drill Crush before entering the room, as this will help us out against the boss here. You may be familiar with, of course, Sigma's dog that we first saw in Mega Man X1. Velgarder jumps around a whole lot, can be difficult to kind of judge, and does a lot of damage. He'll also kind of bark out these sparks, either 2 of them that go against like the wall, or ones that kind of come out in an arcing pattern, but using the Drill Crush can do a lot of damage to him fast. Once you get him down to a certain point, or at any point in the battle where you know you're going to definitely have a line of sight on him, use Zero's final move in order to either finish off, or if you want to use that to start off, whatever you would like, but either way, use it to your advantage and move on to the next Sigma level. At the beginning of the next stage, we're going to switch off to Mega Man like we have been. We have plenty of health, and we're going to start off with a big dash off the right here. Now, we do end up getting hit a little bit, but you're able to like bypass a lot of enemies if you kind of get a nice timed hit here. Here, you're going to have to ride across this moving platform using the arrows. Of course, if you get hit or you jump, it will cause it to go the other way, but once you're over safely to the opposite side, start climbing up. You have to avoid the electricity here. It's going to kill you if you end up running into it. Climb up the next couple ladders. Once you're able to make it past, you have to be very cautious here, doing kind of falls, dashes, and then immediately hug the right. I know that went by fast, but that's one of the most challenging parts of this entire game. I died a few times the very first time I ended up making it to that portion. The timing on avoiding the electricity is very strict when it comes to this part. Compared to like the rest of the game, it's extremely tricky to get past. Here we're going to use our boost to kind of help us get up the platforms and then continue along the top portion here. Few enemies are in our way. We can defeat them or kind of run past them. Flames will come up like they did in the earlier levels that we traveled through. Thankfully, it's not an instant death, though it does do a little bit of damage, and we do have a boss coming up. Before the boss, we're mostly going to be using Zero for the boss unless we get into real trouble. So we don't have a whole lot of health going into the boss. It's not the worst thing for us. Before entering the boss chamber, equip the Drill Crush and get ready because the timing on this is very specific. If you mistime it, you end up taking a lot of damage. Use the moving up and down platform, then jump off, and what you're going to do is the Drill Crush, and as soon as you use Drill Crush, like right where you're about to make contact with the face, use it and hold back on the D-pad. This way you kind of go diagonally back left. And this will allow you to kind of like move in a diagonal pattern and go right through the boss, hitting all the phases of him and being able to do a lot of damage really quick. If you do it correctly, you can breeze through this boss. There's a lot going on during the boss, so using this little bit of a trick will help out. Now, if you get low on health, of course, switch out to X, or you can also use Zero's final move if you're right near the very end of it and just need like a hit or so more. You can use that in order to kind of finish off the fight that way. Now, for the next stage, it's crucial that we switch to Mega Man, because Mega Man's the only one that can get the ultimate final upgrade. Zero can't get it. But this also decides which of the extra bosses we end up fighting. So, in order to get that final upgrade, we're going to have to use Mega Man. When you approach this cutscene, whoever you are, it then decides. So this is kind of like your final point of when you, right before this, you can make that decision on which of the extra bosses that you want at the battle. Either way, after the final boss that you end up battling from these two, you go on to the final levels no matter what. The only difference is you end up going to a specific little level for one of these two bosses, which work as the final bosses of the normal playthroughs for Mega Man and Zero. The Maverick rematch, as well as the final battle against Sigma, are only able to be unlocked in the Extreme mode, which is another reason why I chose to go with the Extreme mode. So after some cutscenes and finally splitting away from Zero, we make it to the next little level. There's some electricity right here, but you want to drop down and work your way now over to the left. There's a couple of enemies along the way. They're really not the problem here. You can destroy the scorpion like one here. You may get a little bit of extra health. Be very careful here, and you have to do kind of an up boost to hit these moving walls. You have to do so relatively quickly. You're going to have a giant wave coming your way before you can reach the door on the far right, so you have to be very cautious. Once you make it through the door, you're going to have a couple of those big giant robots that have been a staple of the X series, a whole bunch of bats. Just keep firing and destroy these guys easily. Now this is where things are weird. Climb up here using the yellow walls. When you make it up to the very top one here, instead of going all the way up, jump into the right wall. You can see kind of the gray box set up. And this is the final ultimate upgrade that gives you both of the classic Street Fighter moves, the Shuriken and the Hadouken. The thing about both of the moves, though, is they're honestly not even as good to use as just using our special move that we've already been using. To use it, though, I'm going to have to de-equip the ultimate blast move. I can still use the +1 and the +2, because I want to show that off at the very beginning of the fight here against the upcoming boss. But overall, I'm just going to be switching back to the ultimate blast, as it just trumps the special moves. After the dialogue with Birkana, the background pops in and the battle begins. I'm going to start off by using the shuriken, by going up right below him and end up blasting him with that. I can also, of course, throw out the Hadoken if I want to, but for this fight, it's actually really easy to just kind of use what I've been using, these +1 and 2. You can kind of just use an up, blast into the air, and attack him. His moves are pretty easy to dodge, though. He has an A and a B attack. Now, the way they end up working, though, is they disable your buttons. So if A ends up hitting you, it disables your A button. If B hits you, it disables your B button. So you're going to do everything in your power to completely avoid them and just keep doing those upward blasts up into the air so that you can keep hitting Birkana with your normal attacks until she is defeated and we can move on to the next Sigma level. Since really it's not that beneficial to just keep the kind of upgrades and set I have, I'm just going to use the ultimate blast like I have been using before, use the +2 with it, and this is the best setup I'm going to need in order to kind of take out all the Mavericks during the course of the Maverick rematch. Almost every Mega Man game has a rematch against all the Mavericks or Robot Masters that you battle throughout the game, and this is no exception. The path to there is a little bit tricky though. Once we make it though, we're going to start off by taking on Flame Mammoth, and I'm just going to keep blasting him from afar. He shoots up the flames up into the air and they come crashing down upon me. Now if he does that earthquake and I run into him, he still does a lot of damage, even with my armor and everything else, but the good thing is you can get health after each one of these fights and grab the little bits of extra health boost at the top. But thankfully I don't really need that after that first fight. I'm going to go on my fights with Neon Tiger, blasting him as he bounces back and forth between the left and right walls, eventually stopping to kind of fire at me with his tail, using his projectile straight at me. But this gives me plenty of ample opportunities to jump up into the air off the walls, whatever I need to do in order to keep hitting him and easily take him out. Once back, I'm going to head over to the left and do my rematch against Launch Octopus. Now, as soon as this battle begins, I fire at him. He's going to go into his tornado all around him. Just stay away from him as he tries to kind of like pull you in. And when he stops that, I can just keep hitting him. It gets a little bit annoying when he's doing this because you can't hit him in that tornado-like thing anyway. But once he stops, you should be able to get 3 or 4 hits in before he delivers anything else. Next up, Wire Sponge, our first robot Maverick that we ended up fighting in this run. He pulls himself up, trying to blast us with those little bits of plant, also attaching himself to the wall. I'm able to do a lot of damage to him before he's able to really get anything off. Before he even goes in the temper tantrum mode, I've already taken him out with my special power moves, so he's done, he's over with, and we can move on to the next Maverick. Our next rematch is against Overdrive Ostrich, who immediately jumps into the air, causing the boomerangs to kind of come down at us before heading into the background. Dash or get out of the way of him coming down and just fire at him a couple of times. He'll jump over my head easily a lot of the times here, and I'll be able to just keep hitting him and avoid taking damage from him. The rematch against him is extremely easy, especially with these power-ups. It's actually kind of a joke to even have to fight these guys because of how much this blaster just destroys them. Now up here is our rematch against Tunnel Rhino. Now this guy can still hurt us a lot, not only from his like little drills that are coming out, but mostly from his body. As you can see, a single hit from it still does a lot of damage. Now I can stay on his same level, just keep attacking him and try to do my best to jump over him. When it gets into that last bit where he's kind of charged up, flashing, throwing rocks everywhere, it's a little bit harder to dodge him. And he usually ends up landing a hit or two on me, no matter even at my best trying to dodge him, but I can thankfully grab pretty much full health between every fight. Up here, time for Blast Hornet, who immediately is going to try to charge at me using his stinger, but during that period of time I jump up and attack him a couple of times before he's able to kind of get anything off. If he hovers just a little bit above the screen, you can still jump and hit him. You don't even have to use a boost in order to hit him in mid-air. Getting near the end of the rematches here, climb up, grab some extra health, work my way back down, and go against Volt Catfish, which is one of the ones I've always struggled with. The projectiles he fires out, the overall like size of his body, just can be a bit of a pain to kind of get out of the way. Thankfully, with the armor upgrades, he doesn't do nearly as much damage as he does during his normal fight, but that first fight has always been a little bit of a struggle in this game for me. Probably other people have no problem when it comes to Volt Catfish, but either way, he goes down, and now we are done all the rematches against all of the Mavericks. Once you defeat them all, in the top center is a new capsule. Be sure to grab the health before going inside of it, and once you do, you're taken to another part of the stage. Once here, start traveling through, blast these kind of crab creatures along the way. There's a few other robots in your way before eventually making it to the end. As expected, Sigma does have multiple forms, so be cautious. He'll start off by charging towards you with his blade, and then he starts doing these purple spheres around him that he'll kind of like get all around him as like a force field and then fire at you. He is vicious when it comes to multi-attacks. He will hit you over and over again without even thinking twice, so it's difficult. Trying to dodge out of the way of these, plus his claws hanging onto the left wall. Sometimes he'll also kind of get into the air, teleport, and then come crashing down where you stand. This is a good opportunity, though, if you know when it's coming, to dash out of the way, turn around quickly, and blast him a few times. The good thing is, though, once you defeat that Sigma, the final form Sigma, you get automatically full health going into the fight. Without that, it would definitely be a lot tougher, and we would be using our extra energy for sure. Now, this fight is very specific. You can only hit him with either X or 0 at certain times. Like right now, I'm able to jump up into the air and do damage with X. As you can see, he'll flash after I hit him every time. Eventually, his massive robot body will disappear, leaving him vulnerable for a second, allowing me to deliver one single hit before the process starts over again. When he's on the far right side, he'll start dashing towards me. You have to hit him as he dashes, because he'll just dash all the way across and end up running into you. When he stops, he'll then fire out those green projectiles at you that you're going to have to try to dodge. After a little while, he'll switch to kind of a purplish form. At this point, you can no longer hit him using X. You're going to have to switch to 0. Now, I stay as X for a little bit because I just kind of form a habit like to dodge that first set of projectiles using X. But then as soon as I get a breather, switch over to 0, and you're going to have to do jump attacks in order to hit his body. As you can see, when I jump and attack him, he flashes, eventually exposing his body, allowing me to dish out some damage. When he goes to his next form, which is the blue form here, which comes dashing across the screen, I switch back to X. He'll use a giant force field, and the only way to stop him is by keep hitting him until he goes off screen. When he doesn't have the force field up and he's just kind of sitting there for a few seconds, this is your opportunity to kind of jump up into the air and deliver enough attacks to him in order to get him to kind of go vulnerable again so you can deliver that hit. He'll then switch back again, sometimes switching back to the purple form and dashing or jumping across to the opposite side. We then have to be careful, stay in the middle, watch out for his jumps. And then when he's coming down, be able to get away from him, sometimes baiting him to the left or far right, depending upon where he's jumping from, so you can get him to land as far away from you as possible. This is the final part though, and his body will destroy you. Even when it lands, it does a lot of damage. Once you're able though to deliver enough hits, you can sit back and enjoy the ending to Mega Man Xtreme 2 for the Game Boy Color. So there you have it, Mega Man Xtreme 2 for the Game Boy Color. It's not a bad Mega Man game by any means. I think they did a good job of kind of like converting over the levels and the Mavericks. I enjoyed both this and Xtreme 1. The only thing that I was never really a huge fan of is when you start that brand new save, you have to unlock the Extreme mode. Honestly, the Mega Man and Zero modes, thankfully you can select either one at the start in this game, unlike Xtreme 1, where you had to beat Mega Man before you got that second set altogether. It just is annoying, because it's not the complete game. Only the Extreme mode feels like the complete game. You get all of the 8 Mavericks, as well as the final bosses overall. But once you've completed the game and done that first time, as long as your save doesn't get erased or corrupted or whatever, you can instantly jump back into that Extreme mode. Now, you do unlock a few extra things for completing the Extreme mode, one of which is an extra boss rush against the bosses from Mega Man Xtreme 1. So, as a bonus, I'm going to go ahead and reset the game here, jump in, and do that boss rush against the Mega Man Xtreme 1 Mavericks, just for the fun of it. When you're back at the main menu, go down to boss attack, and once you select it, you'll be dropped and you have two tubes to pick from, the left and right side. The right side is a boss attack against all the Mavericks from Xtreme 2, with the left side being the rematches against Xtreme 1's Mavericks. So, we start off with Chill Penguin, and what's cool is you automatically have all the X parts, and you automatically have all the Zero parts, as well as all of the Maverick moves at your disposal. So, as expected, I'm going to go ahead and equip that ultimate blast move like I've been using for all of the last portion of Xtreme 2, and use that to battle. And we start off with good old Chill Penguin. He's going to, of course, fire out his ice pellets towards us, create those little ice clones of himself, as well as slide on his belly in order to try to take us out. But we should be able to easily deal with him using these big blasts in order to defeat him and move on to the next Maverick. Your only real goal here is just to see how quickly you're able to do so. Just like with the normal boss rush, we can grab extra health if we need to. We're going to jump into the next pipe though right away and battle Spark Mandrill. Spark Mandrill usually likes to jump at me. He does that big charging fist towards the left or right side of the screen, which does a lot of damage. He'll punch the ground, causing sparks to fly out. So you always want to make sure that if you're far away from him, you can easily jump over them and keep delivering those hits until he goes down. Next up is another favorite of mine from Mega Man X2. It's Mammoth. He uses Crash and he kind of pulls in from all around the screen. As it goes around in a circle, he pulls himself up in the center. He'll dash across the very bottom of the ground trying to run into. And once he gets halfway down, he'll change into his actual moth form, flying around, dropping little bits of pollen at you, as well as firing out a big blast that kind of goes around in a circle as well. Climbing up the platforms here, grab that extra bit of health. We'll head to the left side here and go ahead and battle Magna Centipede. Now, Magna Centipede, he'll fire out some things that will kind of circle around you, eventually stopping, and when they stop, they'll then kind of crisscross and try to run into you. He can also pick you up with his giant hand and try to destroy you that way. You can kind of shake your way out of it in order to avoid taking damage from that, and then just keep firing until he's defeated. On the far left side of the bottom portion here, we battle Storm Eagle, which of course, not only a great Maverick from X1, but one of the best songs from Mega Man X1. Well, at least my all-time favorite themes from the X games. He will cause like air to kind of push you or towards one of the two pits on the far left and right side. He does his dive bombs that he will be trying to hit you with as he's coming from the top portion of the screen. He also has the little eggs that he kind of throws out and tries to hit you with as well. Next up is Flame Stag, who I always love the flame horns coming out of the sides of his head. He jumps towards the left and right walls. It's kind of a little bit similar to Neon Tiger in overall delivery. He can go up pretty high. He also, when he gets mad, goes into his blue flame mode. More powerful, does his uppercut move, fires fireballs directly at you, and is an overall nuisance to kind of keep in a place where you can keep delivering those attacks to him. Here I'm going to need to grab a little bit of extra health and climb up to the upper right and battle Wheel Gator. Start off by immediately attacking him. He fires out those blades that kind of roll along the bottom and then ride up the walls and then off the ceiling down back towards him. He'll also go underneath of the oil in the ground here and then pop up and try to grab you using his giant mouth in order to kind of crunch on you. Last but certainly not least is Armored Armadillo. Now, this one always seems to give me trouble, only in this game though. Even with my like powered up moves, if I'm not careful, Armored Armadillo runs into you. He does a lot of damage with our upgrades and all. Keep firing at him. He'll of course charge up after we keep attacking him in order to blast us, so that's really kind of part of the problem here. We don't want to really do that. He'll bounce along the room. I kind of got a little too cocky during the course of this fight and just keep wanting to fire at him. When he bounces out of his ball form, it gives me the opportunity to keep hitting him until he drops. And there you go. That is all of the Mavericks. Once you end up defeating him, you go back to the chamber room, And then from here, you can climb up, grab extra health, and then go into the chamber in the center, and you complete the boss rush. It'll tell you how much time it took you to complete it, and then you go back to the title screen, you can go back in the boss attack, and then check out the second portion if you want, which is the 8 Mavericks from Xtreme 2. But anyway, guys, that will wrap up this edition of Play It Through. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up or comment it down below. It's amazing, this is the 9th year I've been doing the March of Mega Man. Now, I do apologize for no kind of special intro this year. It's the first year I've not had a special intro. Last year's kind of not everything got finished with it, so we weren't able to complete it because of some technical issues. So I figured with MagFest and everything else I've been doing, I wasn't able to finish it. I didn't want to delay the videos. I've delayed March of Mega Man a couple of times in the past. I wanted them on time, so here you go. So I apologize for no special intro. It's amazing though, 9 years. This is the 9th year I've been doing the March of Mega Man. Check out Mega Man Xtreme 1 that I did last year. You can click the video on the opposite side of the screen from me. I also need to thank all the members of my Patreon. If you guys enjoy the Play It Throughs, the March of Mega Man, or anything on this channel, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. As little as $1 can help out. And it's just a monthly pledge. That little dollar, that $1 a month, can really go to keeping this channel up and running. So I very much do appreciate it. Thank you everyone who's continued to support the Patreon and the channel in general. Of course, there's plenty of ways to support it. Share this video. Share it with your friends. Post it on Facebook, social media, wherever. All those good things are great ways to kind of support this channel, or just watch ads. I know ads suck, but they also do help out the channel. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.